welcome to another episode of the Ferret 64 podcast with me, your host, YemmytheFerret. Ferret 64 is, of course, the one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. And man, today we got a nice episode lined up for y'all, including my pickups from October, which we'll get to first. But also, we got some games I've been playing this past week. We got some video game news out there, and of course, a pretty beefy coming soon section. So sit back and relax, and let's go ahead and go over what have I picked up this past month. I still want to accidentally say week from time to time. So what have I picked up this past month? We got a couple of new games here to start off with. The first one being Battlefield 6. Picked that up physically. I was a little bit disappointed that the disc did not have the entire game on it. You had to download and update a lot of it, and they did just do another update with that new Battle Royale mode. So yeah, the disc isn't really as cool as I was hoping it would be, but still enjoying the game. We also have Once Upon a Katamari. I was playing this one pretty much last week. I was playing this one. I got a bit sidetracked trying to finish other things, which I will talk about today. But Once Upon a Katamari, I knew I had to get this physically. I have all my other Katamari games physically, so this was a easy no-brainer. One of the first games that came out this month, Ghost of Yotei. This one is back in the box right now. I have, of course, been playing other things, but I am still playing through this and still having a good time with it for sure. Ghost of Yotei. Gex Trilogy. This is the latest limited run game, and this was one that I knew that I had to pick up as soon as it was available to pre-order. I have the original Gex game, but the disc doesn't work. It's a PS1 game, I'm pretty sure, and the disc didn't work. So I was like, I guess I'll buy another disc. But then they announced this, and I was like, oh, guess I don't have to do that anymore. And then finally, for the new games this week, another Crab's Treasure Day 1 edition. This is the physical version of another Crab's Treasure. Now, I know this is not technically a new game. It came out digitally last year, but this is the physical print for the game, which I knew I had to pick up. And whether or not I open it ever is up for debate. It may just stay wrapped its entire life, but you know me, I like to support the developers, and when they do stuff like this, put a full game out on disc or a game out that was digital, I like to try and support them as best as I can. So, another Crab's Treasure on disc for the PS5. Now we have some new, older games that I picked up. As I talked about last week, we played A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. I actually recently picked it up on Amazon for like $10, and as I said in my scathing review, not really worth the price tag, actually. Maybe if you're a super fan of Quiet Place, but, whatever. But yeah, I picked this up physically, add that to my collection. I don't have a lot of games starting with A, so that'll be good. Oh, look at that. Another game starting with A. Art of the Rally. I ordered this game and another one that I'll show off next from VGP a while ago when they were on sale for like $10 each. And I totally forgot that I ordered it, and now I have Art of Rally in my collection. Gripping goodies inside. That's what the sticker says on the front. I'm not sure exactly what's in here, but yeah, Art of the Rally. Never played that one. And then this is a game that I actually was thinking of buying on Steam, but then I saw that it was on sale. This is Crypt Custodian. This is another game that I bought with Art of Rally, and I totally forgot that I ordered these games. I mean, I must have ordered them a few months ago at this point, but this is a cute little game where you kind of play as a janitor cleaning up a dungeon after a player has gone through, which, sounds kind of fun. So Crypt Custodian, there it is. And then this month, we only have two older games that I picked up. I bought both of these at a local video game shop. The first one is Die Hard Trilogy. This is all three of the Die Hard games made into a video game. I'm pretty sure there's three different versions of a game here. So the original Die Hard is like a third-person shooter. The second game is a rail shooter. And the third game seems to be a bit more of like a car chase or something like that. But this is one of those games that I was thinking of picking up for a while, but the price wasn't right. But now it was like $12, so I said, all right, we'll pick that up. And then finally, the Piece Les Resistance. Duke Nukem Forever on the Xbox 360. I had this game a while ago on the PS3. I obviously sold it, but I wanted to pick it up again because Callus said, "Oh, that game is so bad. Who would ever want to play this game?" And I said, me. I would want to play this one. I don't remember it being that bad, in all honesty, but no, it has been a while. But yeah, I just wanted to pick this up because this game is really cheap too. There's not really that much interest in picking this one up. I remember when this game was like $5 at GameStop one time. That's actually when I picked it up originally. But yeah, here you go, Duke Nukem Forever. Cool. All right, let's jump into what have I been playing this past week. Oh, by the way, I am still planning on making a every game pickup video for the year. So once I do the December pickups, which will probably be in January, I will make that video. I'll cut all those together. So stay tuned for that. Okay, what have I been playing this past week? So the first thing that I want to talk about is actually a new game that came out this week called The Séance of Blake Manor. This is a point-and-click game where you're inside of a manor or mansion, as you might have guessed, and there's some creepy things going on in the manor, and it's up to you, the detective, to sort all this stuff out. Now, going into this game as this detective character, you don't really believe in the supernatural, but you quickly become a believer as you start to see weird occurrences inside of the manor, including moving furniture and ghosts. That's right. All this is centered around a seance that is happening at said manor, and this seance is supposed to be the first of its kind where you, not you, but the leader of the seance is going to actually see and talk to spirits, ghosts, people who have passed on. So the pretty cool premise here, is it's essentially like any other detective game, but it's based around a more ghostly kind of thing. And I saw a few people saying like, "Oh, I wish it was just a murder mystery." And there is part of me where it's like, yeah, I kind of do also wish it was a bit of a murder mystery as well. But at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty cool concept for a game. Having this whole seance and the ghoulish and ghouls out there, the ghosts, not exact. I mean, what's the difference between a ghoul and a ghost? I'm not sure, but there's ghosts in this game, and I think it's kind of cool. There's also a plethora of characters to talk to, each of them who are very distinct, and they have their own personalities. Of course, they have all their home personalities. Each one voice acted very well and written very smartly. Where the game is starting to lose me right now, because we were playing on stream, and I was like, oh, this is a fun stream game, detective work and all that. Eureka? Yeah, Eureka. It's very it doesn't hold your hand at all, which is a good thing, sure, but I would like to be nudged in the right direction every so often. And sometimes the character does start to think something like, I can do this right now, and like that helps. But I have come to a point where I don't really know what to do other than wait for the next day or the next hour. And how the game works is kind of like Blueprints, the game that came out earlier this year, where each time you do an interaction, it takes time off of the clock. So every hour you have, every minute of the hour, if you interact with something that costs 1 minute usually. And essentially you have 60 things you can do before the next hour starts. And characters will move, story will progress, etc. There are other things where it will take longer. So like if you go to lunch and you talk at the table at lunch, it will take 21 minutes. Or if you decide to leave, it'll only take 6 minutes for you to eat lunch. Stuff like that. So you gotta figure out what you want to do with your time. Would you like to spend more time investigating? Would you like to spend more time going to these random events that are leading up into the seance? It is really up to you to decide. And much like Blueprints in that way, where it's like Blueprints, it was every time you went through a doorway, you lost a. What was it? What was it? You got more tired, right? You had like 20 steps, and when you get to 20, you're so exhausted you fall over, right? This is not a roguelite, though, or a roguelike. It is just a straightforward point-and-click adventure game. I mean, obviously, you're moving around, too, so it's not exactly like point-and-click. It's obviously a modern-day point-and-click kind of game, but, it's one of those kind of game styles that you don't see too often where, it's more of a story-driven, you're doing your detective work, you're searching around things, you're doing little puzzles. It kind of reminds me of a game like Mist or something like that from the same developers. Even some of those earlier like Telltale games like Max and Sam and Max, those Sam and Max games, also like Grim Fandango and stuff like that. You don't really see too many of these games coming around lately, but it could be the next trend in gaming to have a more point-and-click based adventure. There's always trends looping around. Right now it's Souls-like games, and it still is roguelite and roguelite as well. So yeah, it's just, maybe the point-and-click games will have another come around. We'll have to wait and see, though. But the Séance of Blank Manor is... It's good. I'll finish it offline. I think that it's just kind of lost me a little bit with how obscure it's getting. And I know it's like, oh, it's a detective game, Yemmy. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's a detective game. But at the end of the day, like there are these like cases I'm trying to solve, and I am just at a standstill. I don't know what to do, and there's really no hints, and there's no guides out there right now that really can help me out with it. And it is a big me problem, so it's not like it's not like I'm blaming the developers or anything like that. It is a me problem. But at the end of the day, it is still a good game. It's just kind of lost me a little bit with its meandering and its just unclear objectives at times. And I've gotten pretty far in it, but I have not gotten to the next day yet. I'm on Saturday still at like 7 p.m., which is like only day one, and I've played like several hours. I think I'm like 6 hours into the game, and I'm still on Saturday, the second. Well, technically it's the second day, but you get there on Friday at like the end of the day. So, yeah, it's just like I mean, filling my time during these days has become more and more difficult, or during these hours has become more and more difficult, and I'm at the point where it's like I don't know what to do. I feel like I've done everything I can do at this point. And I'm just going to have to roll with it. I'm just going to have to roll with it and keep going. But if you want to check it out, The Séance of Blake Manor, there is a demo available on Steam. I believe the game is only on Steam right now, and maybe it'll come to other platforms eventually. If you don't find the game, it also was called Eldritch Manor before, which is actually a much worse name for the game, in my opinion. But The Séance of Blake Manor, that's a pretty good name. That's a good name. It's a little bit mysterious, gives you a little bit of like a, ooh, what's going on here kind of thing. Oh, a seance. Ooh. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, the main gist of the game is just detective work, analyzing things, solving puzzles, but it's a little bit more paranormal. So if you kind of want that kind of thing, there you go. Or maybe save it for next Halloween. This one came out about a week before the end of October. I feel like it would have had a better chance of being finished by myself if it was at the beginning of October. But, it's one of those games that it feels like it's got that good Halloween vibe to it. And it does. It does have a good Halloween vibe to it. It's a creepy house. The characters are a little bit, like, uneasy, like, ooh, who done it? And, I just feel like it kind of wore out its welcome for me a little bit. But I will get back to it, and I'll try and finish it off eventually. I also finished 2 games this week. One of them is Ball X Pit. I ended up finishing this, and I had such a good time with Ball X Pit, or Ball Pit, or Ball and Pit, or Ball Times Pit, whatever you want to call it. And it's one of those. It's one of these roguelike games that like really spoke to me. There's so many roguelike games out there nowadays. It's hard to really pick and choose what you want to play. Obviously, I have a limited amount of time with everything that I'm playing and doing. Like, I don't want to waste my time or waste my money buying a game that maybe I'm not going to like. But Ball X Pit was a game that I looked at, I saw, and I said, that's going to be one that I play. And, it delivered. It delivered on everything that I wanted. I've talked about this game in depth the past 2 episodes. So if you want more in depth about like the gameplay mechanics and stuff like that, go back to those ones. This is just going to be an overall like, what are my thoughts on the game post credits, and what can you do after the fact? Real quick though, it's Vampire Survivors crossed with a ball breaker game with a little bit of shoot 'em up in there, or I'm sorry, bullet hell, a little bit of bullet hell in there, because the screen does get filled up with plenty of enemy projectiles towards the end of the game. And I thought they had I thought this game did a really good job of progressively making the levels more difficult. I think there was a bit of a difficulty spike when the fungal people came around. I felt like that was a pretty big spike in difficulty, so you had to do a little bit of grinding here and there, but in my opinion, like the gradual difficulty of the game felt really good. And also like getting new characters pretty gradually as well, just kind of like tooling around with that, and then eventually you can use 2 characters at the same time, so putting these characters together to try and see what combos work out. I was talking last week about a guy who can shoot through enemies and the balls once they hit the back of the stage, you can shoot through enemies until the balls hit the back of the stage and they bounce around, which on its own is good, but then you combine it with this other guy who, when the balls hit the back of the stage, they immediately come back to the character and it does damage on the way back. Like, that combo is really good. If you're struggling with the game, that is one combo that I thought was really good. Now, obviously, you need to be a little bit farther in the game to get that sort of thing working, but at the same time, like, if you are struggling with those later levels, boom, that's a good one there. Also, the twin character combined with the character who shoots from the back of the field is very good. The sheriff who can shoot balls faster, plus the shield guy, is very good. Like, these are combinations that are magnifico. And I honestly, it's really funny. I do all these combinations and whatnot, but by the end of the game, when I was on the last, you essentially are fighting like these ball characters. It was the last level of the game. I was like, okay, I'm on the last level. I'm just going to play. I'm going to do my normal thing. I'm going to get the regular character out there and play through this level. And by golly, I beat it. I beat the level. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. I just had a great run. Picking up all these gems and getting the right balls and mixing them together in the right way and creating all these crazy evolution combos. I'm still finding new combos as I play through the game still. Like, I most recently found out you can combine, like, Earthquake Ball plus I think it was a light ball. It makes like a vine ball, or it was a clone ball. The clone ball makes a vine ball. Like, that's pretty good. There's so many combos and they're all pretty good. I don't think there's any combo that's really not that great. The only ball that I usually stay away from is like the light ball, simply because it doesn't really do damage. It just kind of blinds enemies, and most enemies don't really shoot at you until the end of the game. So it did become a little bit more of a good pickup later on, but still, it's like, it's whatever. What was I saying? I got off track there. But yeah, I played the last level with the regular character and I beat it. And you have to beat the last level like 10 or 8 times. I think it's 8 or 10 times with characters. So using the combo characters really helped out. So you could just knock out 2 characters at a time. And I was doing all my favorite combos. And at the end of it, I had 2 more characters I had to beat the last level with. And I was like, who is a better combination, or who is still a good combination who I have with these characters I have left? Because I didn't want to replay the game with characters I already used. And I ended up going with a character who, I believe he's called the General, and he turns the game into a turn-based ball shooting game where you'll shoot your balls, you'll kill as many enemies as you can, like one shot, and then the enemies will move forward while you can move around. And then once you're there, you have to choose where it's essentially it's essentially a turn-based game, right? You can combine him with this character that actually plays on his own. There's a character who literally will let you sit there and do other things while he is playing the game. It's an AI-controlled character. The AI-controlled character is actually pretty good most of the time. It does make some stupid decisions, but it does most of the time work out. And you combine those two characters is actually a winning combo. Like I had the AI character combo, I tried to mix them with a couple other characters. It didn't really work out as well as I was hoping. But mixing them with the general character, the way because the game stops essentially. The game stops and goes and stops and goes, and that gives the AI time to process and go, okay, I want to shoot there, or I can line this up here. And I was pretty impressed. I was pretty impressed when that happened. So, yeah, it's the fun combinations that you don't see coming that are usually the most impressive. And while that last two group of characters was going, I was kind of doing other things on the side here. I was watching a stream. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Maztec or Callus. I don't remember. But I was watching a stream. I was doing some other side work, and I was looking back at the screen every so often to make sure that the characters were still alive, and two, the game hadn't crashed or anything like that. But yeah, it was just playing in the background. So if once again, like the combos and the characters and stuff like that, it all kind of gradually gets more and more as the game goes on, and I found myself really enjoying just every little bit of this game. The only thing that just was a bit of a negative for me was the fact that it really does take. There's a point where the enemy design kind of stagnates a bit, but from like after the fungal people to the demons, like I felt like there really wasn't a lot going on there with the enemy types and the variety of those enemies. They kind of felt the same, but then once you got to the demon guys and then past that, things kind of were cool again. It was cool. So like, and there's obviously a bit of grinding in there as well, maybe a bit too much grinding for some people, and I get that. It does take a couple of runs to build up your XP and build up money and resources to build new buildings, get new characters, upgrade those abilities. And at the end of the game, I did build every single building that I wanted to, and it really didn't take as much grinding as I was thinking it was going to, but that's just because I was playing through like the first level with every character, then I was playing the second level with every character, and then I was playing the third level with every character. By the time the third level came around, you could get that building where we can use two characters, and that's where I kind of just started, stacking wins over and over again for everything else. So, yeah, I guess another thing I can say is like, yeah, just beat the game with each character as many times as you can, or for as many of them as you can before moving on. That way you can upgrade that totem that you get, and you can also, get the XP going for those characters when you need to use them, because you need to use a new character for each gear that you get in the game. So what happens post credits? So you watch the animation, blah blah blah. You get back. There's actually New Game Plus unlocked right away. So you can literally just start playing New Game Plus. It buffs the enemies a bit, makes them more aggressive, makes the game speed a little bit more, gives you a little bit less damage, but you keep all those upgrades, you keep your buildings and all that stuff. So it's essentially just like the most, it's not a basic New Game Plus, but it is essentially what you expect from a New Game Plus scenario. There's also these buildings that you get when you finish the last level that can upgrade your stats indefinitely. So you can go from like B to S plus plus plus, like you can just keep upgrading your stats over and over again. That way you can just build like the most tanky, amazing character ever. And then there's also buildings you can upgrade to. You can keep kind of working on that. The ones that I focused on during the end of my playthrough was the ones for, you can use more than 4 balls. You can use an extra ball. You can use an extra passive. You can get level 2 passives. You can get level 2 balls when you pick them up. Like that's these are things that help you just accumulate more evolutions and just let you dish out more damage faster. So at the end of the day, Ball X Pit, really good game. Not perfect, but very, very good. Really enjoyable. It deserves the 400,000 copies it sold, and I hope that it sells 500,000 by the time this podcast comes out, or maybe it already has. I don't know. I didn't look it up. But it definitely deserves all that and more. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5. It is right there with the other great games that I've played this year. And it's probably one of my favorite indie games this year as well. Definitely surprised me a lot. And I'm glad that I did pick it up. And I'm hoping you have understood that by the 3 episodes now that I've talked about it, that I very much enjoyed this game. So Ball X Pit. Pick it up if you so desire. If you don't desire to pick it up, it's also available on Xbox Game Pass if you have that. So there you go. I also beat Dying Light the Beast this past week with Greedy Waffles. We both beat it together. We co-opted the entire game, minus like the first mission that, you have to play like the first mission or so to get co-op unlocked. But after that, we pretty much played the entire game together. And I mean, as I said the last time I talked about it, I very much enjoyed this one. It's about on the same level as the original game. It's better than Dying Light 2 for sure. This is like the game that I feel like should be Dying Light 2. It has the same vibe. It has, of course, the same character with Kyle Crane, but it also has so much more going on as well. And I feel like I am a bit harsh on Dying Light 2, and there's a lot of reasons for that. First off, it had that stamina system that I really didn't enjoy, and it also just didn't feel as good as Dying Light 1. But the thing that I can say about Dying Light 2 that is actually better than Dying Light the Beast is the parkour in the game. There's more to parkour off of. I think back to playing Dying Light 2, and there's like that city area you go to with the skyscrapers, and you're like jumping between buildings and using your little parachute thing to get to another place. And I just felt like that was such a smooth, free running experience. And Dying Light the Beast, even though the town in the game is good for free running, that's the only place that free running is really viable in the game. Everywhere else, it's like, oh, you can just climb up this, this building, or you can jump over this, or there's a couple of areas where you can like climb across rocks and rock faces or cliff faces. And I just felt like for a game that the parkour feels so good in, it's unfortunate that they just kind of like cut that out of more than half the map, because there's the town, there's the starting building, which is also a bit of a parkour place, and then it's like a swamp and a field and there is like a factory you go to, which is pretty, it does have some free running opportunities, but once again, it's a small single area compared to the rest of the map, which is very expansive. And they want you to drive around, of course, and stuff like that, which I get. I get that. The DLC for Dying Light 1 called The Following, that also had a lot of driving to do, but I think it also did a good job of mixing in those parkour elements maybe a bit better than what this game does. And that's not to say that the game is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, it does make me yearn for more parkour. And even thinking back to the original game, like Haran, both versions of it, the town that you start in and the city you go to, they're just so fun for just running around, killing zombies, jumping off of buildings. And in Dying Like the Beast, like, yeah, the town in the middle of the map, it's fun, but it's also like once you've done it, the paths, and the rest of the map is pretty flat, and it is a bit it's a bit disappointing in that aspect. I felt like the combat was pretty good. I do feel like they gave the human enemies a little bit too much health. Like, I feel like I'm sitting there like beating them senseless with a fucking sword that's like does 700 damage, and they're just like, they're tanking it, and I'm like, look, you're not a fucking zombie, dude. You're not a zombie. Just die already. And they dodge and they block and they just can take so many blows. I feel like the human enemies just have way too much health, which also leads into, I think that there's way too many forced gunfight sections in this game, and Greedy Waffles is the one who originally brought this up, and I do agree with it, where it's just that sometimes they'll just force you into a shootout, especially in the end of the game, which I thought was pretty egregious. Was you're essentially assaulting the castle of this the main antagonist in the game, and they start you off, and it's like you're doing some parkour, you're underground, you're kind of going through some catacombs, and then you get to the top and they're like, here's your gun. Like, and they do that every single time that there's a forced section where it's like you look over Kyle Crane, he looks over and he's like, oh, a gun, and you pick it up and you start using it, because most people aren't going to keep a gun on them. And I was one of those people where I was like, I don't need to keep a gun on me. I have all these good melee weapons. But then the game's like, well, you're gonna need a gun here. Here's a pistol. Here's a shotgun. Here's a submachine gun. Here's an assault rifle. Here's a sniper rifle. And it's true, you do need the gun at some points. And the original game had some shooting sections as well, but they weren't exactly forced onto you. You could still parkour around them. But I feel like the enemy AI in this game, especially the soldier enemies, they will hone you in and they will gun you down before you can get to them most of the time. And it's because the areas are so flat. You'll find these like convoys or these little outpost places with loot in them, and there'll be those soldiers there, and they'll immediately see you and they'll start shooting at you, and they have pinpoint accuracy. So you got to, of course, combat that by having your own assault rifle or having a crossbow or a bow and arrow. And yeah, it just like the shooting is fine in the game. Like, it's not anything super special, but where the game really shines is the melee combat. I felt like they did such a great job fleshing out the melee combat, kind of combining elements from Dying Light 2 and the original Dying Light game, and then also adding in the beast mode stuff, which is another big part of this game. Is you can turn into the beast. You turn into the beast, and you can rip apart zombies, and you can do slam attacks, and you can pick up rocks and throw them at zombies, and there's all these like cool little animations that they pepper throughout the entire game. And that all still works when there's a gunfight happening, but you also still lose health when you're in beast mode, so you got to be a bit more careful with that stuff as well. And that all, like it's all like, it is a criticism of mine. It's not like detrimental to the game like that much, but it still does make me go, man, I really just wish that we had a more straightforward like section where you had the ability to parkour around the enemies and then flank them or something like that. And I get it, having a gunfight section here and there, much like the first game, but this one just they had it a bit too much during these main missions where Kyle will look over, grab a gun, and then put you into the game. It happened a lot. It really did happen a lot. But by the end of the game, I had weapons that were doing like 900, 1,000 damage for some of them. Like, that was awesome. Like the ability to just rip through zombies, especially the ones that are in the town that are like level 1. It just feels so good. And then also being able to take on some of the tougher enemies alone and just have, Greedy can go off and do this, I'll go off and do that. Like, it was just a cool thing. The only enemies that you couldn't do that for was the volatiles at night, who were still very tanky and very frightening. So we kind of had to, keep that in mind while going through the game, because we were about halfway through it. I think I talked about this last time as well. We were about halfway through it, and I was like, it's just one volatile. What could go wrong? And then we got completely dismantled by it. So, that was my bad. Yeah, I generally enjoyed my time with Dying Light the Beast. I thought the story was pretty good too. Like, it's still a Dying Light story, so it's not got that much going on. But for what it was, I feel like they did a great job of setting up this villain, setting up the entire premise of the game. And then also at the end of the game, they gave you some heart-wrenching moments where like these characters that you've been with, who you saved and who were helping you, some of them don't make it to the end of the game, and it's actually a very emotional moment. And then when you finally do face the final boss fight, like, it's a 2-tier boss fight. First part is like he's a regular guy, and then the next part is he turns into a beast himself. And I just thought that it was very, very well done at the end of the game. There was one boss fight in the game that I really wish they had redesigned, which was the fight with the titular beast character that you're hunting down. Even though you can turn to a beast, they also have a beast themselves. That was a very stupid fight where you couldn't use your weapons. You had to use a baseball bat, and you had to try and knock him out. And there was like tiers to it where it's like, don't knock him out, or I'm sorry, don't hurt him. And then she would be like, oh, okay, I give up, hurt him. And they would keep doing that. So that was just a very annoying fight. And most of the other boss fights in the game, I feel like they could have just been a bit tweaked or redesigned. A lot of them were just like normal enemies who would show up later. There was one boss fight in particular that was like one of the big Titan type dudes. There really wasn't much going on at that point because we had already gotten like the best weapons from doing all the story missions and side missions. So, like, we ripped through it really fast, and then they were like, well, you didn't think that was hard, huh? Well, here's 2 at the same time, and then here's 5 at the same time. It's like, okay, all right, you got me. So, yeah, Dying Light the Beast, though, I mean, in conclusion for the game, it's fun. It definitely is worth playing. If you like Dying Light 1 and its DLC, you're going to like the game. If you played Dying Light 2 and felt like it doesn't feel like Dying Light anymore, you can go back to this one. It was definitely a good experience. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with it, and I think that you will too. I think you will too. If you are a fan of a first-person, hack and slashing kind of game, I just felt like there was a couple areas where I feel like they could have tidied this game up a bit. But other than that, fun time. So at the end of the day, I am giving this one a 4 out of 5. I'm trying not to make this this episode as long as last week's, but I do have to talk about Pokemon TCG Pocket again. So I'm not here. Okay, this is not going to be a rant. They released the new packs. There's 3 new packs, which include Mega Evolutions. And I believe they also brought Mega Evolutions back to the normal Pokemon TCG as well. And they started off by giving me one of the best, most rare cards from the packs, which was a Mega Evolution EX Gyarados, the immersive version. And I was like, okay, I'm back. I also did a 10-pack opening. They gave me 4 cards. 2 of them were shinies, which are the more rare things in the game as well. So I do think at this point they have tweaked it a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if next week I start getting nothing again. But for the time being, I feel like these new Mega Evolution Pokemon have actually, 1, spiced up the game a bit. 2, I think the artwork looks fantastic for these new cards. The new card packs have some of the best artwork for the game so far. And 3, the cool thing about this new update is they also are allowing people to share cards directly with people without having there to be a trade needed. So if someone wishes for a, Clefable card, you can just share it with them. You can just send it to them. There's no strings attached, which I thought was a really good idea. So they've done that as well. It's pretty much a free thing. You can do 5 a day or something like that. It costs the dust or whatever it's called. But who doesn't have 1 million dust from opening up packs and getting cards, So that's the main gist of it. I've been enjoying opening up these packs, and I know that my luck is not going to last forever, but at the same time, I also am just really enjoying myself. I'm actually opening up a pack right now, and I got a Golett and a Plume Fossil and Pat Rat and whatever that Pokemon is, and a Seismitoad. Oh shit, Seismitoad. And I also think that a lot of the abilities of these Pokemon, in terms of a battling sense, are also much better than stuff that we've seen before as well. I was talking about how the EX packs kind of ruined the flow of ranked play and stuff like that, and I still don't feel like I'm going to go back to ranked play anytime soon. I'll probably play a couple here and there, sure, especially with the new packs out. But at the same time, the ranked play stuff is kind of overstayed its welcome for me. I'm just kind of over it. But some of these new cards, they have really good things to them, like Macactus can do Dazzle Dance for 40 damage, but your opponent's Pokemon is now confused. That takes 2 energy. That's not too bad at all. Zebra Strike, 3 energy for 90 damage. I mean, that's not as good as Starmie EX, but there it is. There's a bird there. So, once again, I didn't get anything from these last 2 cards that I opened up, and I don't really expect to get anything too crazy after getting 2 of the most rare cards in the game for this set. But at the same time, this whole new set has kind of brought me back into it, and I'm, as much as I didn't like the EX cards packs, and I was kind of getting bored or annoyed with the Suicune pack and the pack before that, it's still the artwork for the game is still great, and I think that the general stuff with the game works, and I'll keep opening card packs, of course. I never said that I was going to stop opening card packs. I just said that I was probably going to stop doing ranked play, and I'll probably stick by that. But at the same time, I do still have an urge to make a deck for the Gyarados, Mega Gyarados EX card. I still have urges to do that, and maybe I will. The thing about the Mega EX cards is if opponent knocks out those cards, they get 3 points, which is an instant win. So you got to be a little bit careful with that stuff as well. But usually the Mega Pokemon have over 200 health base, so it's you're probably not going to have a problem with that. But Yeah, I just wanted to give a little bit of an update here. I'm not going to rant about it. No, I'm not going to do that. Maybe in the future another rant will come, but as of right now, I'm at peace. I am zen with Pokemon TCG Pocket app, and I'm just hoping that they'll give me some good cards throughout the time that I play this game. And I always try to collect at least the base of the packs, and I haven't done a 3-pack ever because I got to the game late. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge for me. See what we can get. Anyway, if you're not playing the game, you probably don't care. Let's move on to something that you might care about. Final Sentence. This is a new game coming from an indie developer, and this is just a demo that I played. The full game I don't think comes out. I don't think it comes out this year. It might come out this year. I'm not sure. But essentially, what this game is, it is a battle royale. Yemmy, playing a battle royale, you might say. It's not exactly a battle royale. It just uses the idea of a battle royale. It's actually a typing game, much like Mario Teaches Typing, where you have these weird sentences. You're in a room with like a group of 20 or so people. There's proximity chat, so you can get annoyed by other people as well. They can mess you up. Callus and I were in a Discord call, and I would randomly just say like, Callus, don't type in the wrong letter like Y or E or A, and I messed him up once. So you can still do that kind of thing if you want to. But the premise of the game is you're all in this room, and each desk has a soldier or a guy in like a outfit, and he has a revolver. And anytime that, well, hold on, not anytime, but he has a revolver. The revolver is empty at the start of the match. As you type out these words on your typewriter, if you do 3 mistakes during your time typing that paragraph of words, they will put a bullet into the gun, they'll Russian roulette it, and they'll fire at you. And of course, if you get unlucky, and boom, you're out of the game. But you can get lucky and keep going. So as you go through it, the more times you mess up 3 times in a row, the more bullets get put into the gun. There's of course 6 chambers on a revolver, and eventually you'll run out of luck. Or another person will finish before you, and then everyone else gets killed. So the thing about the demo is there's only one mode, and it is that mode where you kind of race the other people to try and finish these sentences and these paragraphs before they do. And there's like a little meter at the top that fills up, or it shows where everyone is at. So they'll show you as like a big number 1 or whatever, and you'll kind of see yourself work your way across the board. And if you make it to the end first, you win. I won like 2 or so times while I was playing it with Callus. And it's a fun little time, and it kind of tests out your typography. How good are you at 1 at spelling, and 2 at the placement of your fingers. Now, I haven't taken a typing class since I was in high school, and that typing class from high school taught me everything I need to know about typing. That's all I've really done, and since then, I do still mess up sometimes, but for the most part, I was pretty good there, here and there. It was in the spelling of the words. Like, I would have like the word spaghetti in my head, and I'd be like, oh, it's Speghetti or something like that, but I would spell it wrong. And even though the word is right there in front of you, like you can just spell it right there, I would spell it wrong because I in my head I have the wrong spelling. That happened to me a couple of times. Kind of getting in my own head, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, essentially throughout the game, throughout the session, you're just typing and you're hearing people get shot around you as they fail. And sometimes if their microphone is on, you'll hear them like say something funny before they die, or they'll be like, "No, please," just trying to get into it. I think it would be a good game for streamers. If you're a streamer out there, Final Sentence might be a fun game for you to stream. I'm hoping that when they do release the full game, I'm hoping 1, it's going to be like a $10 or less game, and 2, I do hope they add a mode that's just kind of like a marathon mode, because right now it's just a race to get to the end. You type out like 5 different sets of sentences or paragraphs, and you're good to go. And there's some people who type so fast it might be a bot doing it. I don't know, but I do hope that there's going to be like a marathon mode added where you just kind of keep going until there's 1 person remaining, or until there's 2 people remaining, or something like that. And you do like a head-to-head. I don't know. It would be cool to have that, and then also like maybe a team mode as well, where it's like a group of 5 people are working on their own sentences, and a group of 5 people over there, and all 5 of those people have 3 mistakes that they can do before they load a bullet. Like that would be kind of be a cool concept as well. But we don't really know what the final is going, final version of this game is going to be. If there is actually going to be any more modes other than the race mode in the game, I don't know. But I think the vibes are there. I think the gameplay is fun and pretty unique to a battle royale, typing. There's not many games that deal with just like typing sentences. Like there was Typing of the Dead, and there was like some old school like learn how to type kind of games, but we really haven't seen anything like that recently. And this final sentence game with this demo is a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. So if you want to check it out, it is free on Steam to play the demo of Final Sentence, and I would recommend doing that, especially if you're a good typist, typographer, whatever it is. If you're good at that stuff, might be a good game for you to play. All right, I'm going to talk about some games we streamed this past week. I'm just going to lump them all together because I would like to not make this episode 2 hours long. So first off, we finished a game called Who's at the Door. This is a anomaly game where you are told to take the pills if you see an anomaly and it stays, or open the door if you don't see an anomaly. And the person at the door kind of looks a little bit weird, but they'll give you the pills for the next day if they aren't an anomaly. So the game takes place in like this one room, and then there's a hallway outside the door. And I thought it was fine. Like, I don't think it's anything super special. I know there's a lot of people who were kind of singing this game's praises for being extra creepy or whatever. And sure, there was some moments where I thought, it was a little bit creepy. But after you get over the initial, like, oh, that's a creepy looking character or whatever, you kind of get over that, and then it's like it's a bit more basic. But there was a couple times where it made me jump, or it gave me a little bit of a fright. I won't be, I'll be honest. And of course, there is like an underlying story going on. You need to go 8 days without having a mistake, and then you get to see a little bit more of the background story. And almost right away after the first like couple of audio messages that you got over like the telephone or the TV, I was like, yeah, this is kind of what's going on. And I ended up being kind of correct about it. I mean, I was halfway correct about it. I'll give myself a little bit of credit there. But the game looks good. It plays well. It's not like it's a bad game, but also at the same time, it's not really going to be one that I remember and look back on fondly. Like, it's just going to be one of those games where it's like, yeah, it was fine. It was fine, and I liked it enough, but I also, I gave it a C tier. It's like it's fine. It's like a 3 out of 5. It's a bit average. And there was also a bit of like AI used in the game as well. Like, I don't mind some AI usage for like helping you out, tools, those types of things. I've talked about this a million times, and I'll talk about it again. But they had like images in the game, like pictures and stuff made up with AI or Sora or whatever it's called, Gemini, whatever. So not cool, and they definitely were very obvious when it was AI. So there you go. We also played on Halloween Day Garfield's Scary Scavenger Hunt 1 and Garfield's Scary Scavenger Hunt 2, Donuts of Doom. These are old Flash games that were on the Garfield website back in the day. When I was 12 or something years old, I would go to the Garfield website and I would read the latest comic. You could actually make your own comics on the website as well, but then they also had a part of the site dedicated to Flash games using Adobe Flash Player, and Garfield's Scary Scavenger Hunt is one that lived rent-free in my mind for quite some time, but it was kind of mixed in with the second game as well, because when I went onto the website, both games were available at the same time, plus a couple of other Garfield games too. And so I went to this website. What was it called? Went to a website called Numuki, Numuki, and it has a bunch of it actually has a bunch of Flash games from the past that you can play. There's a My Little Pony one. There was another one for just other old Flash games that were, I guess, preserved on this website. I don't know if they have any Cartoon Network games on there. There was an Ed, and Eddie Flash, there was actually a couple of Ed and Eddie Flash games that I used to play back in the day on CartoonNetwork.com, but anyway, the Garfield games, these are ones that I played a lot when I was a kid, and I found them pretty fun. They were a little bit scary, had some jump scares in there, but the first one is kind of a classic in my opinion. It's a very basic point and click game where you play as Garfield. You got to go inside this mansion, you got to find the various packs of donuts, and then once you find all the donuts, you can leave and you win the game and you eat them. It's a very Garfield thing. But there's a decapitated head in one of the rooms, and Lyman is downstairs chained up. He's just chained up and all dirty, and it's kind of spooky, kind of off-putting here and there. And I think they really changed that kind of vibe for the second game, because the second game it didn't really have that kind of thing going on with like all these disturbing images. Like there was still a decapitated head, but it was like one, and there was like a bunch of more goofy animations for like this jump scares essentially. But it was a fun Halloween stream. I dressed up as Garfield. I had a big inflatable Garfield costume on. It was very hot inside of there by the end of it, and we just had fun with it. I just had fun with it, and I thought that it won. I think the original game is definitely worth playing. It's just like a little goofy point and click adventure. Solve some basic puzzles and go and move on. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on GG, but that was just kind of a joke. It's actually like more of like a 3 or a 3.5 out of 5. Definitely like a C tier or whatever, maybe even a B tier. The second game is a little bit different. The one called Donuts of Doom. This one is very strange. They rearranged like the house pieces, so like you go inside of a room and like there would be a room next to you, and you go into that room and it takes you somewhere completely else inside the mansion. I guess it's for people who really memorized the map for the first game, I guess. But there was more in-depth like mini games inside of the game, so instead of it just being like, oh, click on this and then click on that, like it was really like, okay, put back together the mirror on the wall, or oh, hit these spiders in the right order or in the right musical note order to get a donut, or move the little box at the bottom of the screen to catch the muffins, or hit the right mice or whatever. Like there was a bunch of things like that where it was a bit more involved, a bit more interactive than the first game, but it wasn't as good as the first game. Like it was kind of like decent at best. Like it had a little bit better graphics to it. It had the soundtrack sounded a little bit better. The gameplay was a little bit more involved, but the layout of the house itself was kind of annoying, and the fact that it wasn't as like actually scary as the first one was kind of lets me down a little bit, which is why I gave Garfield Scary Scavenger Hunt 2 Donuts of Doom a 3 out of 5. I gave Garfield Scary Scavenger Hunt, the original one, a 3.5. So that was our end to the Halloween month. It was a very fun month indeed. And next year, we'll be back at it again with more Halloween spooky games. But right now, in November, which is, I'm recording this on the first day of November, it's Bunger Month. If you don't know what Bunger Month is, it's a month dedicated to one of the best characters ever in gaming history, Bunger from Bugsnax. And during this month, in honor of Bunger, you guys in the Discord, if you're not part of the Discord, join that. Or if you are a part of the Discord, come to the Discord and pick a game from my backlog for us to play on the channel. There's plenty of spots open. And the first game for Bunger Month was chosen by D&D Lucy, and she picked TimeSplitters, the original TimeSplitters on the PS2. Now, I didn't play it on the PS2 because I know that the game is a bit more of like a boomer shooter, hardcore kind of boomer shooter kind of thing going on with some unfair enemy placements. So I decided to play it on PS5 because it has the rewind feature. And if it wasn't for the rewind feature, it probably would have taken me a little bit longer to beat, because it is one of those games where it's like you pick up an item and all of a sudden it spawns like 5 enemies in front of you who all are ready to shoot you at the same time. So I had a few unceremonious deaths that I did erase by doing the rewind feature, which is fine. Like I'm not gonna poo-poo anyone for doing that because I do it myself. I do it over and over again. The original TimeSplitters is not as good as TimeSplitters 2. Let's make that clear right now. But at the same time, it does have its own very fun vibe to it. The story is pretty straightforward, where you just go through a custom level. You kill as many enemies that they put in front of you, you get the item, and then you pretty much go back through the entire level or to the exit point, and that's that. And the cool thing about it is I didn't know that the original TimeSplitters actually had the map maker mode in it. I thought that was just a TimeSplitters 2 thing. So this one did have a map maker where you could make your own multiplayer maps and your own levels as well, which was, of course, expanded on in the second game, but it's very cool to see it here in the first game, because TimeSplitters, the original TimeSplitters, was a day one game for the PS2. Which is kind of crazy. So it's like 25 years old now. It was a day one game for the PS2. And it's pretty crazy just how much they jammed into this game. A map maker, a story mode, an arcade mode with multiplayer, and also a challenge mode as well. The challenges, which were more fleshed out in the second game, are here as well, where you gotta hold a bag for a long enough time or kill X amount of enemies in an amount of time. So I thought, I mean, that there's value in this game, just so much value in this game. And I was very surprised. So yeah, the original TimeSplitters not as good as TimeSplitters 2, let's be honest, but still a pretty fun time. Like still a game that I definitely would like to go back to and do some of those challenge modes or mess around with the map mode. Obviously it doesn't have like as in depth of a story as the second game, or as good multiplayer as the second game, or as good a challenge as the second game, but it still has stuff there that I think is a good blueprint for what they ended up doing for the second game and possibly the third game. I haven't played the third game yet, but possibly the third game. But the second game is still one of my favorite games of all time. TimeSplitters 1, though, a good start to that series for sure. Even if every single female character in the game is like overly sexualized, it's still a fun time. And I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. We'll put it into the B tier. Let's go ahead and move on to what's in the news. All right, first up, we have unfortunate news. Amazon Game Studios is being hit with a bunch of layoffs. The numbers are not specific, but we can kind of say that there's about 14,000 people who are having their jobs affected inside of Amazon in the video game division. Now, Amazon Games, they haven't put out like anything too super crazy at this point, but they did buy up a lot of studios to start making games. Most recently, the MMO called New World was a big budget game that didn't really do as well as I guess Amazon was hoping. So it seems like a lot of people are going to be laid off throughout the course of the next month or so. Mostly affected are the offices in Irvine and San Diego. They're going to be reducing the workforce there. In a quote from Steve Boom, the vice president of audio, Twitch, and games, he sent an email to staff, which we were able to acquire, and it says, "While we're proud of our successful first-party AAA game development and publishing, we have made the difficult decision to halt a significant amount of first-party AAA game development work, specifically around MMOs, with Amazon Game Studios, including making significant role reductions in our studio in Irvine and San Diego, as well as our central publishing team." So this did affect the Lord of the Rings MMO that was kind of teased earlier this year, which would have been a good callback to the past, because there was an MMO for the Lord of the Rings games back in like the PS3 era called Lord of the Rings Online, which I thought was pretty well received back then, but I believe that has been cut. And then, of course, this New World game, which I believe came out earlier last year. Oh, no, last year in October of 2024. So that one seems to be being a bit scrutinized here as well. I don't think it reviewed very poorly, but obviously didn't do as well as they were hoping. And this kind of reminded me of the situation with Google Stadia. Back in the day, Google Stadia bought up a bunch of developers, and they said, we're going to make a lot of games for the Stadia service. And a couple games came out, sure, a couple of day one games, and a couple other games later on, like Orcs Must Die 3, and there was that fighting game with the samurai. But at the end of the day, like, the service didn't perform as well as they were hoping it would, and a lot of companies had to be let go. A lot of them were sold off and bought off. And I would rather, like, Amazon be like, okay, who would want to buy this studio here in Irvine or this studio in San Diego? Like, sell off these studios. There are still people who can make good games in there. Like, you know, one game that maybe didn't perform to the standards that Amazon has put forth, you know, give them some chance to keep some life going. You know, sell the studio to like WB or something. I don't know. Like, at this point, it doesn't seem like the market for video game developers is going to be expanding, especially with some of the more recent news about AI in the industry. But at the same time, like, you know, Amazon should have known going into this, like, yeah, I mean, you know, you're going to make some bad games. You're going to make some good games. There's going to be some games that take too long to come out, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's all a part of the game development cycle. It just really sucks that they are just shutting down these studios and laying people off. Not only in general, but also this close to the holidays as well. Just seems like a real shitty thing to do. And I don't think Amazon is really scrapped for money. Like, I feel like Amazon could and should keep these studios going for quite some time, even if they are producing money. I mean, Amazon is still a multi-billion-dollar company. I don't think they're struggling to survive in any way you slice it, but yeah. I mean, this is just a part of a larger problem in the gaming universe right now, where these studios are just getting shut down and laid off and games being canceled left and right. And it just seems like every week, every other week, every month, there's another story coming out about this, and it's been happening since like 2024 at this point. It's been multi-year, and it just sucks. It just really sucks. So like I mentioned, AI is kind of taking over the industry a bit right now. There's some companies who are saying that they are going to become an AI first company. And one of those main companies is EA, Electronic Arts. Last week I talked about them partnering up with I forget the name of the AI company, but it was an AI company, and there's already been some turmoil inside of EA about that. But another company has come forward and said, yes, we are also going to be partnering with an AI company, and we are now an AI first company. All our games are going to have AI inside of them. And as I've said multiple times, I don't think AI is wholeheartedly a bad thing, but in the case of like essentially just doing the dumb monotonous work, like give that to the AI models. They can produce code and whatnot all over the place. But when it comes to like character modeling, pictures, music, etc., I would really prefer there to be a human hand in there, making sure that everything is to the way that they want it. And of course, like I believe there's been some articles from people who are inside of EA, like even though they're using like these AI systems to produce code for them, like they have to go back through and like actually really look at the code and make sure that it's right. And EA wants to move over to like more AI in the studio than people, and it's like, well, are you really going to start doing that when the people at EA are getting double work because they have to check over the AI's code? I just don't think AI is there quite yet to be building games from scratch, and I think that that's what these companies want to do. They want to eliminate the workforce and have just AI algorithms producing games, and it's going to affect their bottom line. People aren't going to buy the next EA game, whether it be Mass Effect or Madden or whatever. I feel like people, if they know it's being made by just AI, people will say, nope, never mind. Same thing with anything coming from this studio called Krafton, or this publisher called Krafton, who actually recently they bought the Hi-Fi Rush studio. They also have Strike Force behind them, who did the Callisto Protocol. Like these studios that are very well versed in animations and facial animations and just like really cool art styles for their games. They're going to take these studios and be like, okay, now throw AI in there. It's like, why are you doing that? So they invested, Krafton, who is a South Korean company, they invested $70 million to become an AI first company, which I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe just building more servers inside of their studios, or buying the rights to use AI software and stuff like that. It's hard to say exactly what they spent $70 million on. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. They've apparently invested approximately, okay, so it actually does say here, they've amassed $70 million to support multi-stage tasks requiring sophisticated reasoning and iterative planning, and serve as a foundation for accelerating the implementation of agentic AI. I mean, that's a lot of word soup there. I'm not sure what that means. But at the end of the day, as I've said many times, AI, it's a great tool. I think we all use some form of AI at this point. But to have it actually create things for a game and actually like be a substitute for an actual human being there just doesn't feel right. It's the same idea as AI making paintings or something like that, or artwork. It's like, yeah, that AI needed to be trained on something, whether it was trained on, I don't know any artists. Let's go with the music thing. It could have been trained on, Mozart or Beethoven, or maybe it's trained on Eminem or Metallica. These AI need to be trained on something. They use something to move forward. So the same thing can happen here, where it's like, okay, we trained our AI on Fortnite and PUBG Battlegrounds, and now we've produced this new, battle royale game that's pretty much Fortnite mixed with PUBG. It's like the AI does what the AI knows what to do or how to do, right? So it's just going to be weird going forward. I think these companies are investing in AI a bit earlier than they should be. I mean, I don't think AI is quite there yet. We've seen it with pictures and music and etc. Like it's like there's stuff there, but it's uncanny and it just doesn't look or sound great. And we've seen AI pictures in games, as I was talking about before, or we've seen AI or heard AI music in games, and you can always point out like, oh, that's an AI picture, or oh, that's not good, or that's that's an AI song. You can point that stuff out. So yeah, it's just much like with EA, I'm a bit disappointed with Krafton. They have all these really good studios under their wing, and to essentially force them to implement these AI systems, it's going to affect their work, much like with EA. So we'll see what happens, but not looking good. It's also not looking good for Nintendo's image, as they recently were rejected for a patent that they placed in Japan. Now, there was a patent that they placed in the US back in September of 2025 that I believe was approved for capturing a creature in a ball and then using that ball to summon a creature at your side. Like, it was a very broad thing here, but essentially the patent in the US which was approved, patent number 1240339. So essentially it lets a character store a monster or something in a virtual space called a sub character, and then you can use that sub character to fight for you, or et cetera, et cetera. That was actually approved without much of a hassle in the US. But in Japan, they used a bit different wording here, and it actually was rejected. It was almost exactly the same idea, but it seemed like there was a bit more pushback in Japan against this patent. And they're actually quoted in a pretty, it wasn't damning, but it was a pretty well worded statement from the I guess the governing body of Japan's patent place. They said the claimed invention or inventions could have been easily made by persons who have common knowledge in the technical field, and that is the main reason for their refusal to let this patent go through. They specifically mentioned Arc, which has a mechanic where you capture things and use them to help you. Also, other things like Craftopia, Monster Hunter 4, Pokemon Go, and a game from a web browser called CanColi, which I have no clue what that is. Essentially, all those games use a similar feature, a similar function. And I actually was saying this when, the last Nintendo Direct came out, they showed Monster Hunter World 4 or 5, whatever it was, and I was like, oh, Nintendo, there you go, sue them. They're using a capture mechanic for these monsters. And of course they're not going to do that because, whatever. But at the same time, you're putting out these patents for these really specific things, like capturing a monster in a ball, and it seems like the US patent office, they're kind of nonchalant about it, like, oh yes, of course you invented this because your game was the first one to have balls and Pokemon and blah blah blah. But then in Japan, it seems like it's a bit more of a process where it's like, well, you really have to show that this is a unique concept that cannot be replicated or should not be, and if it is replicated, it's copyrightable and stuff like that. So if you want to look more into it, the patent on the Japanese side is JP7545191. If you want to check that out. In a final statement here by myself, what kind of wording is that? Finally, though, they have until let's see, 2026 to try and get this reversed, or they'll have to refile the patent. So, yeah, there you go. And this also will affect Palworld as well, who were. I think they're in a continuous lawsuit right now with Nintendo. So if this doesn't go through in Japan, that could see this case be thrown out, which I think it should be. Honestly, I get it. I guess I really shouldn't say that. I understand where Nintendo is coming from, where it's like, oh, this is our mechanic, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, this has become such a broad mechanic now, capturing something and using it to battle for you. This is not a Nintendo only, Pokemon only thing. This is spread out into the tendrils of the wider gaming landscape. And to say that you have complete control over throwing an object at a character and having it fight for you, that is just so broad. There's going to be so many games that could be affected by this. Most recently, Death Stranding 2 has a capture mechanic. Palworld, Monster Hunter games, there's so many games that are going to be affected by this. And it's really disappointing that Nintendo is going out there and trying to get these patents to go through, and I don't feel like any of these patents should go through. It's one of those things where it's like it's a broad gaming concept now, much like jumping or firing a gun or climbing something or throwing a blade at something and then having it return to your hand. Like Sony isn't going out there and patenting the axe, the Leviathan axe from God of War. You know, they're not patenting the idea of throwing something and having it come back to you. Like they're not doing that, because they know it's just a wide gaming like thing. Like anyone could make this, and that's what this Japanese patent company is saying. Like anyone could make this with the right technical know-how. So it's like it's not really that exclusive of a concept. And you can also make the same thing for WB when they patented the Nemesis system from Montreal Studios, which got shut down, and now that patent's just at WB rotting there. Like there's so many people who are upset about that, including myself. And it's like, why did they need to patent this in the first place? What's the point of not allowing other game studios, other people to use this idea of a Nemesis system? It just doesn't really make sense at all, especially because it's kind of being left dormant. Now that they've canceled the Wonder Woman game and they shut down Monolith Studios, it's like, what are they going to use this patent for? Now it's just sitting there. And those things don't expire for like years. So it could be quite some time before we get something similar in another game. And they have that locked down pretty well. I don't believe we've had a single game that has a Nemesis type system since Shadow of War. Like, really, I really can't think of any other game that has a similar system to that. And, it is a unique system. It sure is. And I think that if they had tried to patent that in Japan, they would have came across the same problem here. But, of course, in the U.S., it's like, oh, no, here you go. Here's your patent. You paid us the money. It just kind of disappoints me a little bit, but let's move on. Well, not move on totally, because we still are talking about Nintendo. Nintendo has actually won the lawsuit that they put up against the streamer called EveryGameGuru. I believe I talked about this a little while ago, probably about a year ago now, because not the patent. The motion was originally filed in April 2025. So what happened was this guy, EveryGameGuru, he was on Twitch and he was streaming games by Nintendo, I would say like a week before they would come out. He included games were Mario and Luigi Brothership, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Pikmin 4, Super Mario Party Jamboree, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And he actually went online and bragged about the fact that he was playing these games early before they came out. This wasn't just like a Australia gets the game 24 hours before the US type thing going on, right? This was like an actual, like, I have this game so early that I am the only one who is able to play it right now. And I'm surprised it actually took this long for Nintendo to win this lawsuit, because it seems like a pretty straightforward type thing. Mind you, this is not like just playing these games on Twitch or on YouTube Live or on Kick or whatever, right? This is like a intentional, like, I'm playing this game early, I'm bragging about it online, etc., etc. Like, this is not like just Nintendo being like, oh, you played Mario and Luigi Brothership on Twitch, we're suing you, you can't do that. It's not like that. It is more of like a, hey, you were playing these games way earlier than you should have been playing them, which means that you were getting them from a torrent site or you were doing something in the background to get these games early. And actually, Nintendo did sue the company that was putting out these torrents called Torrent Freak. There was a final settlement there, so we don't know exactly what the numbers are for that, or I don't remember what those numbers are. But for this EveryGameGuru guy, he needs to pay Nintendo of America $17,500 in damages. Now, I don't know where they came up with that number. It might be all the games compiled into one, or maybe they added up all the bits and subs and stuff from those streams that he did and came up with that number. It's hard to say, but that's what the Colorado Federal Court, the judge there, that's what they came down with. So also at the same time, Nintendo needs to tell the court what they're going to do by the 13th of November, if they're going to go through with this, ordering him to pay this amount or whatever. So yeah, we'll see. There was 15 violations in total there, and I believe that he was streaming like Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door early when he got the lawsuit. So I think they're also tacking that on as well. So Yeah, I'm just talking about it. I don't really know anything going on with the case specifically. But all I know is like this is kind of what's come out. They won the lawsuit. Nintendo won the lawsuit, and this is like a lawsuit that I can see like I'm okay with. Like, I don't mind them suing this guy because he definitely was doing something wrong, and he was also very vocally bragging about it online. So, I see why they did it, and I'm okay with them winning this lawsuit in particular. Okay, Crash Bandicoot is going to get his own Netflix animated adaptation, probably within the next couple of years. It seems like they're just getting started with this. Now, we haven't seen the Bandicoot since that multiplayer game that came out, Crash Brawl or something like that, right? The most recent fully fledged game was Crash 4. It's about time, which it's kind of crazy that Crash Team Rumble was the other one, Crash Team Rumble. But it's hard to believe that we haven't gotten another Crash Bandicoot like mainline game since then. Like, I understand they wanted to put out like a party game, I get that, but at the same time, like, this is another part of like the whole Xbox conversation where it's like, why aren't we getting another Crash Bandicoot game right now? I don't know. But I think Toys for Bob went solo. But anyway. So, yeah, coming from a website called What's on Netflix, they claim that Wild Brain Studio is going to take up the mantle of bringing the marsupial to the small screen. They're going to make their own Netflix animated adaptation. This, of course, comes after all the ones that were very successful, like Castlevania, Tomb Raider, Arcane, and Splinter Cell. So Crash Bandicoot will be getting his own animated adventure as well. Now, I don't know if they're going to do like a 3D animated thing or if they're just going to keep it 2D. I'm guessing they're probably going to keep it like a 2D anime style, but we will see. We will certainly see. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be an actual like press release in the near future, maybe at the Game Awards. Just something we got to wait for. But as of right now, it seems like this is being worked on in the background, and maybe it'll come out within the next year or so. Finally, for the news today, Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. This was was this like a battle royale, like PvP kind of game that originally released back in April of 2022. It is being shut down now. The game will officially shut down on April 26th, 2026. So we still got a bit of time to play it before it's officially shut down. I mean, that's 4 years of the game being live, which is more than you can say for a lot of games out there like Star Wars Hunters or Concord or, name any live service like game that's been around or was around. Like, most of them shut down after about a year or so, especially if they're not like that popular. And I don't remember Masquerade the Blood Hunt being that popular to begin with. I remember talking about it when it first came out, like just as like in passing, but I don't remember like seeing really much about this game after the fact. It seemed like a cool idea of like vampires fighting against each other, and you have all these vampire moves and guns and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, it is just another like battle royale type game or whatever, and it's one of those things that I'm just not like too interested to play. And I'm sure a lot of people were more so hoping for an actual like Vampire the Masquerade game, which did come out recently. The Vampire the Masquerade 2 came out recently. But yeah, this Blood Hunt game was probably just something that they were hoping would tide people over until the next game in the series came out. And now that game is out, they're going to be sunsetting the Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. In a press release, they said, "We encourage everyone to enjoy the time that remains in Prague and to keep playing, making the most of these final months together. Thank you for being with us on this journey. We hope your memories from the rooftops and back alleys of Prague will stay with you as they have with us." So there you go. Honestly, didn't even know this game was still alive, but I am quite impressed that it did last this long. And I like to see that. I don't want a game shutting down a year after it's out, like Foam Stars or whatever. Maybe even weeks after it's been out. Like, I don't like to see that kind of thing, because there's people who put a lot of work and time into these games. But at this point, a lot of studios need to be seen like, yeah, the whole live service model, it works for maybe 1 out of 10 games, and the one game that it works for becomes like a staple of the landscape. You got Fortnite, you have Apex Legends, you have Helldivers 2. Like, these are staple games in the video game landscape now, and of course there's other ones you can probably talk about as well. So it's hard to break into that mold, and once you do break into that mold, it's hard to keep players playing those games, keep spending money on those games, buying battle passes and skins and blah blah blah. Like, it's hard to do that, especially with how popular the other games are in the landscape. Like, Fortnite still like holds like most of the gaming revenue for every year, next to like Minecraft and GTA 5. So, it's one of those things where it's like, I get trying to jump into this realm, but much like with the failures of many other games in the past, it's time to maybe take a step back and go, okay, live service games, maybe not the best idea for a small company, maybe not even a good idea for a AAA company at this point, because there's just some games that are just classics that'll last forever, and if you try and even nudge your way into that, you're probably going to be disappointed with the results. So, there you go. Let's move on to what's coming soon. Okay, Resident Evil Requiem. This is coming next year in, February? February 27th. So it's not really that far away, all things considered. They did do a Resident Evil Road to Requiem video, and they also revealed the deluxe edition of the game as well. So the Road to Requiem video was pretty cool. They kind of recapped everything that happened since Resident Evil 7 through, the ones that matter for this game. It had the voice actor for Lady Demetresque, Maggie Robertson for the voiceover for it. So it was a very fun walk through these series in general. Resident Evil 7, great game. Resident Evil 8, great game. Top 10 game of the year for me personally for the year that it came out. And Resident Evil Requiem coming out next year. Maybe it'll have a chance to be in the top 10 games that year as well. It's one of the big opening games for the year. So you can pre-order right now if you so desire from multiple places. The base version of the game is $70, so you get that next-gen tax on it. The deluxe edition, which offers some costumes and skins and stuff like that, that'll be available for $80, either digitally. I believe there is a physical version as well, but for sure it's a digital version there. If you get the standard edition, you get a pre-order bonus for Grace's Apocalypse costume if you want that. In the deluxe edition, you will get 5 extra costumes for Grace, including a Lady Demetresque outfit. There's also going to be a total of 4 weapon skins, including a skin for the SNS M232. You will also get two filters for the game, one of them being an apocalyptic filter. You also will get 2 charms for your guns, one of them being a Mr. Raccoon charm. There will be an audio pack with Raccoon City Classics, and you'll get some extra files for the game. I don't know what that'll exactly do. Maybe it'll help you with something in the game eventually. I'm not sure. It seems like, for an extra $20, I don't know if this is really worth it, in my opinion, but it is still a deluxe edition if you want to check that out. Also, the Nintendo version of the game is getting some interesting things as well. There is going to be a Resident Evil Requiem branded Pro controller, Switch 2 Pro controller, which kind of interesting. I mean, it's going to be a bit pricey, of course, but it is kind of interesting. Also, there will be some Resident Evil Requiem amiibos coming out as well. They have not been revealed yet, but I can only imagine that they're going to be for Grace and some of the main characters from the game. Maybe they're holding back showing them just yet because of the fact that the game is still a few months out. They also revealed that there is going to be a 3-game Resident Evil Generation Pack for the Switch 2. All 3 of the games included in this pack are going to be game key cards, including Resident Evil 7 Biohazard Gold Edition, Resident Evil Village Gold Edition, and the new Resident Evil Requiem. That, even though the entire price for the launch day thing is going to be $100. They're all going to be game key cards, which is kind of unfortunate. I saw it coming, though, because it's Capcom. It's a third party. Of course, they're going to put these games on game key cards. But it's not like I want that, though. Like, I would much prefer them to have actual game key, actual game cards in there. It is what it is, though. But if you want to buy all those games in one complete set, there you go. And of course, I believe the story for Resident Evil 7 and 8 are going to matter for Resident Evil Requiem, even though Requiem is taking place a bit farther ahead than the 8th game. Yeah, we'll wait and see when that comes out. But that is coming out February 27th. I'll be picking up, of course. I love the Resident Evil series, especially the newer games. Even though I wasn't like too crazy about Resident Evil 4 Remake, still enjoyable nonetheless. Speaking of Switch 2 games, Animal Crossing New Horizons is getting a free update and also getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. This is going to give you some new upgrades for the game, including mouse mode integration, which can be used for home layout and clothing design, a new megaphone item to call out to your villagers, and of course, improved visuals and frame rate, camera support, and game chat opportunities as well. So a lot of stuff there for the low price of only $5. If you do not own the Switch 1 version, though, you have to pay $65.99 for the Switch 2 edition. So it's really not that bad of a price increase from Animal Crossing New Horizons to the new Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch 2 edition. Who doesn't own this game at this point? Even I own this game, and I've never even played it. It was more of a thing for my other half. But a $5 upgrade pack is not bad. I think that's like the cheapest upgrade path for any Switch 2 upgrade. So that's pretty nice. Also, along with that is the new version 3.0 update, which is going to add a new resort hotel run by Cap'n and his family, which you can decorate as you please, along with expanded home storage of from 5,000 to 9,000 items. Also, there's going to be a new cleanup service, a slumber island to start things afresh, and an edit with your friends option, along with additional amiibo functionality. Also, they announced that there will be collaborations with other companies within Lego. Okay, so another collaboration with Lego. Also, collaborations with Zelda and Splatoon as well for the game. Along with a feature that many people were asking for, bulk crafting. You'll be able to craft multiple items at the same time now, which sounds like a thing that should have been in the game originally. So will this get people to come back to the game? I'm sure it will. Is this going to tide people over until they announce another Animal Crossing game? I'm sure it will. A lot of people were hoping and expecting them to announce another Animal Crossing game at this point because Animal Crossing New Horizons sold so well, but they have not. And it was because of this new Switch 2 edition of Animal Crossing. I don't know why they didn't announce the Pikmin 4 Switch upgrade from last week and the new Animal Crossing upgrade for this week. I don't know why they didn't announce these at the Direct a month ago, but it's Nintendo. Who knows what they're doing? Also, just as a FYI, the DLC pack called Happy Home Paradise will still be sold separately for $24, or it'll be available to you for no extra cost if you own the Nintendo Switch Expansion Pass service. I was hoping that they were going to pack in the DLC with the Switch 2 edition, but they did not, which maybe is why the game is only $5.99 for an upgrade. Next, Avatar Legends: The Fighting Game. We'll be getting a closed alpha test sometime in the future. They did not say exactly when the test was going to be, probably sometime in November, because the game does come out in spring 2026. So, they'll probably get something out there between November and December, tweak the game a little bit, then release it fully in spring of 2026. The fighters you'll be able to choose from for the alpha are Aang, Zuko, Katara, and Korra. All four of those players will be available to fight with in the game. The gameplay that they showed off looked pretty good. I think this is probably going to be the best Avatar game we've maybe ever gotten at this point. I mean, there were a couple of Avatar games back in like the PS2 and GameCube era that I thought were kind of good, but good when I was like 14 years old. But this does seem like the best Avatar game that we're going to be getting since then, because not a lot of people liked the Avatar game that came up from Game Mill, obviously. And I think there was a couple other like a mobile game or something like that as well. But this fighting game looks really good, and it's being helmed by Justin Wong, who is a Street Fighter legend. He is now the global ambassador for the game, and he confirmed in a new trailer that there's going to be fresh gameplay and more coming soon, along with the closed alpha test. We don't have an exact date for it, but we do know that it is going to be exclusive to Steam if you want to play that. You can probably guess what other characters are probably going to be included in this. Probably some staples from the original Avatar anime and also the sequel anime with Korra. So, so far, like what we've seen of the gameplay looks good. I'm sure that this is going to be probably one of the best Avatar games we've ever gotten, but it's a bit of a shallow pool to choose from for that. Some exciting news. We're getting some new releases, some new physical releases for the Switch 2 coming from publisher Nicalis. These are all games that were developed by Egmond McMillan, and those 3 games are the newest, latest, and greatest edition of Binding of Isaac called Binding of Isaac Repentance Plus Online. Also, there will be a new Switch 2 edition for Pastry Panic and Order Up with 2 exclamation points at the end. I don't really know about the other 2 games, but the Binding of Isaac is obviously a classic indie gem, and this new Repentance Plus is going to include all the recent updates and DLCs for the game, all on a physical release. So they're not going to be game key cards, which is really nice. The new features for this new Repentance Plus Online is going to be online play in all game modes, including daily runs, greed mode, and challenges, extensive preference filters when hosting or searching for online matches, emote wheel and voice chat for online communication, new item descriptions options available, which will reveal full functionality for items that you previously collected, new leaderboards for online play, over 700 different items to collect, more than 300 enemy types and bosses, and multiple difficulty settings, game modes, and branching paths and endings to discover. So, seems like this really is going to be the just big collection for Binding of Isaac. They've done a couple of these collections now. I still only own the original Steam release for the game, which is kind of crazy. But maybe I'll fork over some money for this if it's only like $40 or something like that. I will definitely fork over some money for this if it when it does come out. They are planning on releasing these physical games sometime in Q1 of 2026. The Thief PSVR 2 game got some gameplay footage shown off in a new gameplay trailer on PlayStation's YouTube channel. This game was announced, about a year ago now, maybe even less. And I mean, it's a VR Thief game. It kind of does exactly what you expect it to do. There's a thief vision. There's a bow and arrow. There, you go around and collect items from the residents' homes. I don't know if they'll go into the supernatural elements that they did with the original Thief remake or reboot. For a VR game, it looks good. I think that graphically it looks good, and the gameplay itself, it does kind of look like your standard VR game, but it does have the Thief kind of paint job to it, of course. So we'll wait to see more about that in the future. But as of right now, the game does look decently good, and this is going to be coming out on December 4th, 2025. So for all the people who own the PSVR 2, this is probably going to be the last big PSVR 2 game coming to the system. I'm going to be quite honest with y'all. It's also coming to MetaQuest and Steam VR as well if you don't have a PSVR 2. But in my opinion, this is probably going to be one of the last things that Sony endorses or puts out there in like a direct or something like that, because PSVR 2 support has been pretty minimal from the beginning, honestly, and it's really sad. This headset costs like $600 and they can't even put out a new first-party PlayStation game. It's all third-party or nothing, or like little indie games, which I don't mind. But also at the same time, I bought this device because I thought that PlayStation was going to be supporting it, but they put out that Horizon game, which was a tech demo at best. And that's been it from Sony. There's been other support like the Metro game and this Thief game, sure. But at the same time, I just put out a first-party Sony game. What are we waiting for? And at this point, we're going to be waiting forever, it does seem. A game called The Florist is coming out relatively soon in 2026. This is a old-school Resident Evil or Silent Hill-inspired game with fixed camera angles and plant-like creatures to fight against. The game itself looks beautiful, like the graphics and stuff like that. It looks very, very beautiful, just like all these flowers and vines everywhere and stuff like that. But it also has that eerie feeling of a survival horror game like Resident Evil. You do have a gun in the game. You shoot at these plant monsters. You're trying to investigate why all this stuff started to happen, and yeah, I mean, so far it just looks like a really like a classic inspired kind of game. This is coming from a New Zealand-based indie developer called Unclear Games as well. I think this game is kind of like shot up my list of like games that I'm looking forward to in 2026 because it looks very good from this short snippet of trailer that we got for it. In a press release, they said, "The florist tells the story of Jessica Park, who arrives in the lakeside town of Joycliff to make a last-minute delivery. Her timing sparks disaster, as the town is quickly descended into a deadly game of survival against omnipresent floral overgrowth. Players must solve the ingenious puzzles, defeat horrifying enemies, and uncover the mystery plan to create a new life in the most inhumane way possible." So it does sound like it's more so inspired by like Resident Evil 2 or Silent Hill 2, where you're a character who's just like, I'm just here, and all of a sudden things started happening, yeah, I mean, like it looks good. I like what I've seen in this little trailer, and yeah, if you want to check it out yourself, go to Unclear Games YouTube channel. All right, we have a handful of classic games coming back to modern platforms. The first one here is Street Racer. That's right, Street Racer. This is going to bundle in 4 different versions of Street Racer, including the PS1, the Sega Saturn, the Game Boy, and the Amiga version, which is, I mean, there you go. That's not too bad of a little bundle there. The Street Racer collection is coming November 27th to Steam, Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, and Xbox One and Series X and S. From the studio putting the game out, they said, combining the speed of an arcade racer with the brawling of a fighting game, this cult classic made its mark with its originality and its own dose of chaos and personality. Race on tracks filled with obstacles and crazy settings from Mount Rushmore to Transylvania. Use special moves to knock out your rivals and explore modes that go far beyond traditional racing. They did not put a price on this yet. I would hope that this is like a $25-ish release new. I would not spend more than that for this, but it's pretty cool to see these old games come back, and this is one that I really never heard of. I'm sure I've heard of it in passing, but I've never really spent any time thinking about it. But yeah, Street Racer, the collection, coming soon, November 27th. Along with that, shmup fans sit up or stand up because Raiden Fighters Remix Collection is coming to pretty much every platform on February 26th next year. This bundle will include Raiden Fighters from 1996, Raiden Fighters 2 from 97, and Raiden Fighters Jet from 1998 in one package. I'm not sure what the price tag on this one is going to be either, but once again, this feels like a $20, $25-ish kind of price tag, new, on sale. Definitely would check that out on sale. The Raiden series, pretty long-lasting series. They're even putting out some games recently. They do seem to be doing a lot of collections like this, so this is just the latest of the collections coming out right now. It does seem to be coming to Switch and PlayStation at least. Maybe there'll be a PC port of it as well. But that will be coming next year on February 26th, which is like a day before Resident Evil Requiem, so watch out. Okay, a game called Lulin the Cursed Sand is coming to PlayStation and I believe PC. This is a top-down game that kind of reminds me a bit of Prince of Persia at times, but it looks like it's a hack and slash kind of Prince of Persia, maybe even God of War inspired game where you are this like really weird looking character who is fighting these really weird looking creatures. In the press release, they said you play as skeletal warrior, the Cursed Sand. Oh, he's known as the Cursed Sand. Prince of Persia. Mastering the power of sand to explore and solve puzzles in a perilous top-down world. Engage in realistic melee combat against overwhelming odds. Defeat powerful enemies and confront the fate of your own cursed existence. Players will be able to toggle between bone and sand forms, unlocking different combat abilities and puzzle solutions as a result. So, I mean, it looks like a fun little hack and slash game. I'll definitely be, looking out for this one when it does release eventually down the road. It just says coming soon, PlayStation 5. I believe it's also coming to PC as well, but just coming soon. So maybe we'll get a full gameplay reveal and or release date this coming month or so. But yeah, Lulin, the Cursed Sand, looks pretty cool. I will say, looks pretty cool. Also, Biped is getting a sequel called Biped 2. Biped 1 came out quite a while ago, I think like back in like 2020 or something like that. This new game is coming soon from Meta Publishing. Biped 2, enjoy the controls, meet the classic two-leg mechanics, and a brand new variety of ways to move. Try out new movement types that are smoothly integrated into the game's process. Soar gracefully on a hang glider and leave behind beautiful patterns, or conquer ledges and break the grappling hook. Sliding is back too. If you don't know what Biped 1 was, it's a bit of a like a puzzle walking kind of game. You play as two different robots. This one, obviously co-op was very much important to the game as well. This one looks like more of the same, just a bit, obviously more going on. You need to help each other get further and act together to achieve success. Take on the role of the legs or the arms to coordinate your steps. Explore new biomes and play in solo or in up to 4-player co-op if you so desire. The game looks good. I mean, it looks about the same as the original game. The original game was fine. I didn't play much of it, but Biped 2 coming out soon. I believe this is coming pretty much across all platforms: Steam, GOG, Epic Store, PlayStation, and Xbox. I'm surprised there's not a Switch version announced yet. That's kind of odd, but it is coming November 5th, if you want to check that out. SpongeBob SquarePants' new game called Titans of the Tide is getting a new demo. I believe the demo is actually already available now. The game is releasing on November 18th this year, but there is a demo available across multiple storefronts, including Steam, Switch, PlayStation, etc. If nautical nonsense is something you wish, then fight the Flying Dutchman and King Neptune in this new SpongeBob video game called Titans of the Tide. SpongeBob and Patrick must team up and combine their unique skills and hopefully stop the total ghostification of their world. From the depths of Neptune's palace to the icy peaks of Mount Bikini, fans will explore iconic locations, face epic bosses, and first and foremost have fun. So yeah, I mean, I will say I'm a bit of a SpongeBob video game fan. I've bought the last two games that have come out recently: the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, and of course the latest, the one from like a year or so ago. And Titans of the Tide looks like it's just more of the same, but it looks a little bit better in my opinion, and hopefully it will play a little bit better than the last game, because these games have kind of gotten better as they've gone along. Like Battle for Bikini Bottom Remaster, or whatever you want to call that, was like a good start, and then the game that came out last year, which I kind of forget what that game is called now, a little bit forgettable, I guess. That one was like a better version of the Battle for Bikini Bottom engine, and now this one looks like even a better version of that engine. So, I'm actually pretty excited to play this one. If you want to play the demo, that's available right now, or you can buy the game on November 18th. And finally, for the coming soon section, here are your PlayStation Plus games for November 2025. These games will be available to download on November 4th. And the lineup is Stray for both PS4 and PS5, EA Sports WRC 24 on PlayStation 5, and Totally Accurate Battle Simulator on PS4 and PS5. This is a very strange lineup of games. I feel like Stray was a PlayStation Plus game, but I think it was available on like the PlayStation Plus, it wasn't the essential service, but it was like the premier service or premium service. So it wasn't technically on PlayStation Plus, but it was at the same time. So this is the essential version of the game. Stray was good. I enjoyed it. I wasn't like as blown away as a lot of other people were, but I still enjoyed the game. EA Sports WRC 24. As you know, I am a huge racing fan. I feel like EA gives PlayStation all these sports games, and I will never play them, or if I do play them, I'll play like one round. Like the most recent NBA game that came to the service, like I think Greedy Waffles and I played like three matches, and we're like, yep, this is the same thing, and we left. They've also been putting out like the golfing games as well. Play around, whatever. Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. That's a pretty fun little game. It's just like a goofy, your forces attack the enemy forces kind of game. Not really that huge of a fan of it personally, but hey, it's fun to try out at least. So I think it's a kind of a weird mixed month. Like who hasn't played Stray yet kind of is what I'm thinking. And also like who really is interested in this WRC racing game. I don't it just doesn't seem like a really impactful month in my opinion, but it is what it is. It is what it is. If you want to play these games, they'll be available November 4th. Okay, well, that'll about do it for today's episode, folks. Let's go ahead and move on to the final part of the show, which is Guess That Game. I've had to change up how I do the end of the episode because the music from the Guess That Song is getting copyright striked essentially. So my entire 1.5 hour, 2 hour episodes are being struck down and taken down on Spotify. And I just can't take that risk anymore. It just kills the episodes in the algorithm. When I re-upload the episode, it won't get as many views because people have either already watched it or it's showing up again in their feeds. It's a whole shit show in my opinion. And so I'm going to be changing it to a suggestion that Greedy Waffles had for me in the Discord, which is I will show you a zoomed in screenshot or something of the like from a game that I talked about today. And if you come over to the Discord, you can tell me what you think that game is. And I will give you a super reaction in the Discord and you'll get the admiration of your peers. Or if you comment on the latest episode on Spotify or YouTube, I'll give you a heart and a congratulations there as well. This keeps the fun interactive feature of the episode going, while also making it so that I can't be copyright striked for an image. Can I? Can I? I guess we'll find out. So here is the image right now. And if you know what game that image is from, let me know in the comments below or where I told you to. All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Really do appreciate that. The new intro music, people are saying that they really like it, and I'm really happy that people are liking it. I'm so glad that it came out the way that it did. Major props to Gail Laliot, who made that on Fiverr, if you want to check him out. Very good stuff there. If you want to go ahead and like this video, I'd very much appreciate that. Or on Spotify, rate the podcast out of 5 stars. I would appreciate that as well. Or on Apple Podcasts, leave a review for the podcast as well. Everything helps. Everything helps. If you want to leave a comment as well, that also helps too. I also do another podcast called Film Freaks with a Z, where we talk about movies. The most recent episode is about Dune Part 2, and General Obi-Wan Kenobi joined us for that episode. Yes, that's right. The Star Wars character himself joined us for Dune Part 2. It was a fun conversation if you want to check that out. Also, there should be a new episode of Fubar Ferret, the just kind of shoot the shit podcast that I do. That should be out next or this coming week. Usually I release them at the beginning or the very end of the week, depending on when the last day of the week is there. So should be the first week here of November. Everything else is all at YemmytheFerret. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, etc. We are streaming on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We are also streaming on YouTube at the same time with a restream. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays on YouTube. You can also check me out on the YemmytheFerret YouTube channel. And if you miss any YouTube streams, you can come over to the YemmytheFerret VODs channel, where I upload the VODs from the latest streams. Right now, I'm working through the October streams, getting them uploaded onto the VODs channel if you want to check those out. All right, folks, once again, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. Really do appreciate that. I will talk at you next week. I'm YemmytheFerret, and I'm out of here. So long. The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by YemmytheFerret. Sound clips included during the podcast were made by YemmytheFerret. The Ferret 64 logo was made by Player2P2. The intro and outro music was made by Gail Laliot on Fiverr. News sources include PushSquare.com, NintendoLife.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions are my own. Thank you for listening.